unnamed friend who told the president he got a weight loss injection for $88 in London, and that the same medicine in the U.S. costs $1,300. If drug companies do not meet the government's expectations, it will use rulemaking to bring drug prices to international levels and consider a range of other measures, including importing medicines from other developed nations and implementing export restrictions. So you're going to import the drugs from the same nations you're forcing to pay more for your drugs. And I'm sure that you're going to still need to for American price. It's a great idea. I do love that the actual is the fact that the president's up like this guy's a good weirdo. We're going from a friend, definitely in Elon Musk. Here is what the president said about this random person who visited that your president watched me and I. Tell me you I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine is in business today. Very, very, very top guy. Mostly highly neurotic. Brilliant businessman. Seriously. Overweight. He takes the fat shot drug. I didn't like it. I just think it's the fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. So I had to draw some blood. I just paid £88 and in New York and paid $19. What the hell's going on? And I brought it up with the drug companies. I said, I tell buddy with every smart good person too. And we argued about it for about half an hour. Trump said, yeah, without arguing today. And finally he just said, because they can't justify it, he just said, look, you got it. That would be any other rational person that damning indictment of the drug makers, etc. Here's the healthcare system that will. Well, no, that's like, you know what, that's a great idea. I know when we live a corner here, we essentially, at least in my story, committed that we're exploiting the American people.
I think there's still some exploitation that can happen here.
Yeah.
I think that maybe if you exploited other countries, then things could work out very easy.
Absolutely. It's like the first time he's heard about drugs being
Expressed at all, yeah.
yeah, he heard about it from a very, very rich person.
Yes.
He absolutely no fucking shit been paying the full price. Like, I don't think it's going to impact this guy's life at all. Clearly, should be paying the full price to offset the price for others. And the guy who he starts like a mission is doing it for branding reasons and not for others. Yeah. But of course, you know, whatever works, he is right. The drug is way out of control. If that suggestion you're taking that doesn't work, that should be cheaper. Hey, sure, you doing that? It doesn't work because you're still in a bad pocket. Yeah. Maybe the Jimmy line is what's new one.
Anyways, yeah, it's great that people are pissed about our high prescription drug prices. And our whole thing on this show over the years has always been that healthcare is a human right. But instead of actually fixing what's rotten with how our country handles healthcare, Trump's offering an option that also gets to screw over every country in the world. And it should go without saying, Trump doesn't really have the actual authority to do something like this.
Not at all.
And it's probably just a big distraction from the fact that, oh yeah, there it is. His administration is absolutely gutting Medicaid as a result, or trying to.
Oh.
Yeah. Here's the Associated Press with more on that whole side of it. House Republicans have unveiled the cost-saving centerpiece of President Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. At least $880 billion in cuts, largely to Medicaid, to help cover the cost of $4.5 trillion in tax breaks. Geez, I wonder who those tax breaks are going to. We haven't done this before, have we?
Never.
Tallying hundreds of pages, the legislation revealed late Sunday is touching off the biggest political fight over healthcare since Republicans tried but failed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, during Trump's first term in 2017.
Obamacare. While Republicans insist they are simply rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse to generate savings with new work and eligibility requirements, Democrats warn that millions of Americans will lose coverage. A preliminary estimate from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office said the proposals would reduce the number of people with health care by 8.6 million over the decade. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to point it out, considering what we've all been through the past few years, but having accessible healthcare is absolutely vital to a healthy and functioning society. And we should be catching up with the rest of the world regarding coverage and cost and whatnot, not by intentionally weakening their socialized healthcare so that our fucked up exploitative system can continue to hobble along.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
It's a lose-lose.
Oh, wow, look, I guess all the socialized healthcare is failing. How could it be? Yeah, you're just trying to do the same thing that you've been doing to our own institutions here in America for years.
It is like Trump
Gutting them and then saying it's the same conversation was happening with the post office this weekend.
Yeah, they don't make where are their profits? Like it's the post office.
It's providing a service that we're paying for. The fact that you can send a letter to fucking any inch of the country within a couple days is astonishing.
Where's the Navy's profits? Show me all the profits that the Marine Corps is bringing in. Shut up. Fuck you.
Oh yeah, why does the fucking police cost $1 billion every year?
Where's those profits? I need to see those profits. We're in the red. It's gotta go.
It's that meme of like the perfect society, and it's like society if Karen Bass just gave the LAPD another $1 billion.
Yeah, it's all it takes, just one more billion.
One more lane and $1 more billion for the cops, and all these problems would be solved.
Yeah. Anyway, we got more to get to, and we will do just that in a second. But first, we have to make sure that this show can stay on the air by once again taking an awkward beat before thanking our sponsors today.
Okay, well, no, the lean and then some time. And let's take a second to say, click the join button. Okay, now we can get to this.
Who's hungry?
Woo!
We have a food sponsor.
Yeah,
this episode is sponsored by Tempo. When you think about fast food, you probably think about unhealthy, thawed-out patties dripping with grease. But when you're on a tight schedule and need to save time, you might not have any other option. If this sounds familiar, you need to check out Tempo. Tempo can provide you with protein-packed fuel to save time without compromising your health goals. Tempo is a weekly delivery service that delivers chef-crafted meals from a dietitian-approved menu fresh to your door.
Tempo serves up fast, feel-good, single-serving meals that are crafted to cook in just me. You'll love it as much as we do.
All right, back to the news now, and we've covered a lot of bad news and confusing news.
How did he get that plane?
Well, they gave it to him.
No!
But this next story has a happy ending in spite of everything. Turns out, Florida's plan to allow teens to work extensive shifts while also going to school has failed in the state Senate.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fact that this was presented in the first place does not bode well for the state or others who might try similar tactics. But at least the bill died even as Ron DeSantis was claiming that the state could simply use its lazy teenagers to replace the migrant workers that he and President Trump are trying to deport for no reason. The children yearn for the fields.
That's right.
Now, setting aside the ridiculous idea that a bunch of teenagers are going to seamlessly replace experienced workers in a massive and sprawling agricultural industry, the bill would have actually just made it easier for employers to exploit younger employees who, in all honesty, should not have to work full shifts while also attending high school.
Yeah.
Again, the bill failed. Good. But here are the details from Newsweek.
A bill that would have loosened child labor laws in Florida has died in the state Senate. The bill would have permitted 16 and 17-year-olds to work overnight on school days and work longer than an 8-hour day before a school day. Some 14 and 15-year-olds would also have been allowed to work those hours.
Jesus.
They go into further details, adding, if approved, Senate Bill 918 would have removed restrictions on the number of hours that 16 and 17-year-olds can work per week during the school year. It would also have scrapped required 30-minute meal breaks and allowed children as young as 14 who are homeschooled or enrolled in virtual school to work overnight shifts. Under Florida law, 16 and 17-year-olds are limited to up to 30 hours a week of work when school is in session, unless a parent or school superintendent waives that restriction. They also cannot work before 6:30 a.m. or after 11 p.m. on a school day. The language in the bill came from staff within DeSantis' office, Orlando Weekly reported, citing records it obtained. Supporters of the measure included Moms for Liberty and the National Federation of Independent Business.
Well, those moms, they want the liberty of getting those kids out of the house.
Get out! Get out! I got wine to drink. I need another lorazepam.
But hey, I mean, at least Florida has a robust public transportation system.
So all these
16-year-olds who just started driving aren't driving to and from school on no sleep whatsoever.
Also, it might have changed since I was a kid, but having your driver's license at that age meant that you could only drive to a certain time of night.
Yeah.
And this bill, in certain cases, was indicating that people 14 and 15 years old could go to these jobs and work strange hours, which, how are they going to get there? Yeah. And also, a very odd, the measure wasn't supported by, any farm workers unions or anything like that.
No, they're these fucking kids, they're not good workers.
No one, it's insane.
I mean, I do think it might benefit, this is a very Chairman Mao thought of mine, but honestly, we'd probably all be a little more humble if we were in fact forced to work in the fields for A month or so.
Yeah, might respect other people and what
just
their
to have
jobs
some
entail.
perspective on the importance of that work and how difficult it actually is.
Yeah, but really quick, I just want to add this quote from Republican State Senator Jay Collins, whose justification of the bill seemed to be that it is a parent's right to choose how hard their child can work.
Wow.
Quote, we should let them say what's best for their kids at 16 to 17-year-olds. That's what we're saying by this.
No benefits for you, kid. Sorry.
And unfortunately, time to go back to Trump. Because, while the president is busy constantly screaming about how migrants and immigrants are somehow the one and only reason that this country sucks and no one can afford anything, he is also, oddly enough, he's just rolled out the red carpet for a very specific group of people. He's willing to accept them with open arms. In fact, he's doing a whole fucking marketing thing about it. Yep, that would be white South Africans.
Oh, he's white?
Yeah, and he is white?
He's white?
Yeah, so the United States and the Trump administration just did a huge PR thing where they welcomed 59 white South Africans into the United States as refugees who are facing discrimination amidst a genocide.
Oh, so now we're just using that word.
Hard point.
Just-
Green light. Go, go, go.
Watch out, they got a sniper! Who is brown. And there's a huge
Hard point
white
identified.
people.
I think all of the people who are like, yay, white immigrants, open their mouth and start talking.
Hard point is active.
Sorry, what the fuck did you just say?
Hostiles have captured the hard point.
Yeah, we let Diane with what happened. Fucking crimes. Seriously.
They should have to fix that accent if they want.
By anything anymore, so here's the Associated Press.
Administration on Monday welcomed
Hostile
a group of
UAV
59
established
white South
overhead.
Africans as refugees, saying they faced discrimination.
Hostile counter UAV established above.
Operator establishing score streak.
Afrikaners also has raised questions from refugee advocates about why
Hard point is secure.
the Trump administration has suspended efforts to
Hostile sighted.
lead war and persecution for a couple of years of events.
Hard point located.
He said that in post-apartheid
Oh, I see you. Have you guys tried talking to them?
Hard point
says
active.
the U.S.
Hostiles have the hard point.
The result of misinformation and an inaccurate view.
Eyes
of
on
the country.
subject.
RTXP maneuvering.
Maybe. The higher I get, the better. There's an enemy shooter! I will be talking about this on my
Hostile
podcast.
RTXD in your AO.
I'd say white people
Hostile spotted.
this is
Still more history rewriting.
Kansas lost the
So
lead.
heavy.
Enemy UAV
Hostile
inbound.
sighted.
Enemy CUAV inbound.
I wouldn't have taken the risk.
Hard point identified. Hard point is active. Hard point locked down.
Oh, I see you. Operator
Watchdog Kilo
establishing score
incoming on
streak.
your location.
UAV in the territory, MI.
Hey, incoming rifle!
UAV classified 50% on my mount. Mark.
Lead dive. Captured the hard point. Hard point is secure.
Thanks for the work. UAV in the side territory.
Sighting in on enemy scoring streak.
Hard point located.
Incoming flashbang!
Hard point active.
In a cell, but
Hostile have the hard point. Hard point locked down.
the exchange and provides
lethal!
Chicago after flying in from Paris. Saying he was detained in Chicago.
Okay, this is kind of fun. I can do battle.
Whether or not Hamas. They started.
Man, we definitely don't have this stuff in hand. Calling in Score Street.
UAV commencing surveillance operation.
Requesting recon above.
I kept repeating
Hard
the
point
same
is
statement
active.
over and over again, Piker said.
Hard point is secure. Hostiles have captured the hard point.
UAV detected. Contest.
Detention occurs against the
Requesting care package deployed.
Sniper, find cover!
this type of targeting creates
Hostile UAV established overhead.
already
Taco. We're flying on the queue. UAV sending to tank.
Hostile counter UAV established above.
U.S. citizens.
Deploying RCXD.
There's an enemy shooter!
Hard point locked down. Hostiles have the hard point. Hudson requesting LDVR. Hard point located. Hard point is secure. Enemy CUAV inbound. Using hand cannon. Hard point active. Hard
There's
point
an
locked
enemy
down.
shooter!
Yeah, I mean, this also, clearly they have a list. And
Can we take a break? When do we get orange slices?
Enemy UAV inbound. No medals for second place. Crush those dirtbags. Hostiles have captured the hard point. Hard point is secure.
anyone who's critical of the battle.
Oh, I see you.
I think wants to get people's heads more. A lot of people are lazy. Lazy if you have the touch or the face. Obviously, federal agents can.
Hostiles have the hard point. Hard point identified. RCXD maneuvering. Hard point locked down. Hard point is active. Hostiles have captured the hard point.
Enemy with suspects.
Operator establishing Score Street.
Anyways, I just throw my phone on the ground.
Yeah, just smash it every single time.
Hard point is
I should
secure.
not have smoked before entering heavy combat, but oh well.
Today's episode, we will of course.
Hey, when do I get to drive a tank? Is that a thing?
For dealing with our operating schedule, as always. But if you want to support the show, the most important thing you can do is click the like button or leave a comment. You know what? Why not do both?
Yeah.
Show them that you really like the channel.
Go.
Not in my contract.
Hard point located. Hostile UAV established overhead. Score Street. Hard point active.
We'll be back soon with more.
Hostiles have the hard point.
Boy, do I have some stories.
Hard point locked down.
Holy moly. They're watching. Always watching. Feds are always watching.
Hostile sighted.
Hey, now we know for real.
Hudson requesting LDVR. CIA's a bunch of proud bastards. They won't forget
Oh,
this.
sure. Shoot the funny man. Real classy.
Biker struck again. I remember I was joking about like what I in America and I'm obviously going to talk about
Eyes on enemy.
by Customs and Border Patrol. I was tactically ascertained and engaged in a killing situation where I was
Gotta start somewhere.
inside of the O'Hare Airport, which I will tell you all about in a second. Oh man, didn't pass the ocular pat down. I believe it was before the ocular pat down. It's the flight manifest that they get ahead of time. They knew who I was, and they were ready to receive me. Just say, and it wasn't a very warm welcome. So what's happening? What's happening, Chicago? What the was that? You know, this is actually my second time coming back here, and the first time I was here for the DNC got kicked out. Enter the state almost. Definitely an interesting experience, let me tell you. Okay, our story begins at Paris's premier international airport, Charles de Gaulle. Okay, now I'm somewhat of an experienced traveler, and usually as an experienced traveler, I like to get to the Charles de Gaulle airport early because I know, no disrespect to France, I love the country, but Charles de Gaulle airport is one of the worst in Europe. It's a major hub, but unfortunately, due to, I think, like a lack of interest from the managers of any of these companies where they just refuse to hire additional people. And I feel like in France, you just have to always hire more people because everyone is doing work very slowly. Okay. It's just the pace that you have to adjust to, and therefore you have to hire more people. There's always like work stoppages and stuff like that. And the unions are relatively powerful, but the corporate overlords will literally punish travelers instead of meeting the actual demands of labor unions there. So I've been in a situation where I've been like stuck in France and stuff. Like I had to do crazy maneuvering to get out. So I knew that. And because I knew that, I was like, I'll go 3 hours early. It's something that I never do. Usually I'm actually very slow. But this time I was like, I'll go 3 hours early and everything will be fine. I was already worried that I was going to have issues coming into the country. I had joked about it already. So I was like, at least on the one side, like leaving the country of France will not be that big of a problem. And boy, was I wrong. Okay. Boy, was I wrong. So I hit the triple Monty. I had like a generational run. There was massive traffic going in. When you actually drive into the airport, the person that's dropping you off has to get a ticket at the gate. The ticket actually didn't work. Like, so we were stuck in traffic with like other cars behind us. Like my driver had to get out and be like, and wave people away from the gate so that we could actually get to a gate that worked, all this stuff. Right. And I'm like, oh brother, here we go. I mean, I'm flying business. So like I have sky priority. So I'm thinking like, oh, at least I'll be able to get my luggage in on time. Barely made it to the check-in. Okay. There was already issues with the check-in. Once I got through the check-in, I got hit at every single step. There's an automatic passport processor where you just kind of step into this room and then boop, doors open, you walk in, right? I wait in line. There's only one. None of the machines are working. Finally, I get to the machine that is working, and the machine's
Take your Bravo underway.
It won't take my passport. It won't take my
Domination.
I was like, oh, here we go. So I had to go to then I got stuck behind
Capturing this objective.
lady with a lot of fluids. So then like she took all this stuff at the security gate. I'm stuck behind this person. I already took out all my electronics and stuff. But of course, lo and behold, boom, I get stopped at security after this old lady as well. The old lady with the bags of fluids.
Capturing this
Security.
objective.
Obviously was stopped. Okay, she had to get GSR swabbed. All this. And then of course, I also
Mark
got
it down,
stopped.
Bravo.
I had to get GSR swabbed
Locking down all
because
zones.
I have electronics.
We control Zone C.
Stopped there. Generational
Securing B.
And then afterwards,
Lock down A.
fantastic. I slept the entire time.
Losing A.
Slept the entire time. Didn't even eat on the flight, which is
Take it B.
never been a moment
Secure. Hold your position.
it's a 9-hour flight, and I didn't even eat
Losing
Got a
B.
threat.
the entire time on the flight. Finally get into the United States of America, and at which point I'm like, all right, let's do it. I got global entry. This is
you.
hopefully this will go smoothly. Okay, first time ever getting into global entry. I got it after my brother yelled at me over and over again,
Eyes on enemy.
telling me you gotta
We're
get
losing Alpha. We lost A. Enemy UAV inbound.
expeditiously.
Taking Bravo underway.
Boom. Immediately they take
Securing Zone A.
and
They're taking C.
and there's a
Locking it down.
Bravo Zone secure.
gets to me.
Head for my
Customs and
waypoint.
Border Patrol agent goes, "Step aside, sir." I was like, "Here we go. All right. She goes, step aside, sir. An agent will come in and take you to another location. I was like, is that proper protocol? It's like, sometimes it happens. I was like, okay. And I knew at that point, I was like, okay, I'm texting like,
Losing Bravo.
I'm texting my manager. You know, I was basically I got Lolo on. I was like, listen, you know, I'm going in.
Losing B.
I'm freaking going in. Who knows how
Take
long
it
this
out.
will take? Who knows what will happen? I had already heard the
Losing Bravo. Take it in.
about this, and I thought to myself, all right, it's done. It's happening to me as well. It is what it is. You know, M is real high. I'm about to say M is real high multiple times to get these guys off my back. So I'm waiting in the corner. This Latina ICE agent comes up, picks me up, takes me. Watch out! Fluorescent light bulbs, the whole nine. Okay, benches in the back. Detention area.
Losing B.
There's a detention area. I'm sitting there. There's like a bunch of terrified families. Okay. There's an old lady in a wheelchair.
Losing
There's
Bravo.
Like a daughter behind me. There's some like random dude in front of me. And the way it works is
Losing B. We lost B.
Capturing this objective.
Lock it down, Bravo.
you don't know what's going on. Sometimes
Check
they
the
come out
capture
and they
front.
Bravo's done.
put their passport in their hands and they go clear to the
Hostile UAV established overhead.
detention area. I guess do some kind of
Losing Bravo.
release on your background.
RCXD rolling out.
Get harassed further, or is this level of and I asked, and I looked around all the passports that people had to see if there were other American citizens. And lo and behold, at least in the area that I was at, I was the only American citizen. There was another guy that actually had an American passport. A terrified family behind me. I was like, hey guys, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you guys have an American passport? They were like, no. So it turns out
Losing
it's
B.
just they're terrifying the shit out of mostly non-Americans.
We're losing Charlie.
But apparently they're also interested in trying to take American citizens. Which I thought was so insane. A lady in a wheelchair is in the detention area, and they
Capturing the building.
here you can leave. Okay. Right? Like I've had secondary searches and stuff done to me.
Taking A. Enemy UAV inbound.
SSS on your boarding pass, and you always get checked randomly when you get hit with that. Like that's happened to me a lot in the past. I get GSR swabbed all the time. That stuff is normal.
Hostile counter UAV established above.
But this time I didn't even have the quadruple that's on my boarding pass, so I was like, all right, it's probably fine. So I waited.
Securing
Enemy
out.
field upgrade.
Losing Bravo.
Here we go. They take me to this back room. Okay?
Losing B.
The back room is not great. The back room is just away. Really poor back there. Light bulb, obviously.
Hey, incoming lethal! Watch out, they got a sniper!
So you can handcuff someone to it, okay? And there's also a seat for like a lawyer. Because I watched too many JCS interrogation videos, and I knew I had to have command over the room. So I
Losing
didn't
Bravo.
sit in the cuck chair. Instead, I sat in the lawyer chair, and we got to talking. Let me tell
Calling
you,
in score
folks,
streak.
the TikTokers that talk about being in they were right. It was an
Enemy
insane
care package above.
situation.
Take it,
So
Alpha.
It's very obvious that they knew exactly what was. It's very obvious that they
Operator establishing score streak.
navigate the conversation.
We got the
And
lead.
it was
Now
a
hold it.
really, really interesting
Securing Zone A.
that took place. It was very cordial. Okay, it was very cordial, which I thought it was strange how cordial it was, because I've had run-ins with
Hostile UAV established overhead.
run-ins with feds in the
Calling in score streak. Taking A.
CBP agents to be cordial. I will say that. Okay. Now, having said that, the entire process is supposed to be intimidating sometimes. Okay. I think they were being cordial because they wanted me to say something that was in.
Capturing the objective.
process of discovery, he was
Take it out.
adding on additional talking points.
Losing
It
feet.
always made it seem as though he was asking so in the process of that conversation, he would ask additional questions. So, you know, he's like, oh, what do you do in Chicago? And I was very revealing. I was
Take an
like,
egg.
well, I was in France because I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France. But
Enemy
I
UAV
France,
inbound.
even though today is technically
Capturing the
Zone A.
subject.
University of Chicago. And he was like, it's like, I don't know, some like stuff. And he's like, oh, well, since you mentioned that, and I'm saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer.
Take it,
You
Alpha.
mentioned that, and you were a Twitch streamer.
Losing Bravo.
What kind of things do you stream about? And at first I was like, do I just tell them?
Bravo lost.
I don't think so. I say I just...
Hostile shooter.
Talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay. What do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like, what the is this question? Like, I literally...
Hostile UAV established overhead.
Capturing the subject.
UAV.
Tally trophy system.
It was interesting because the dude asked so many insane questions, none of which is illegal, by the way. I just need you to understand. Nothing I've done online
Enemy CUAV
Evenly
inbound.
vote. Capturing the
Securing
subject.
Alpha.
is now laws may change in the future, and they might actually start prosecuting administration. But so far, everything I've done is
Taking Bravo underway. Crimson's on their heels. Hit 'em hard. C.
One, I didn't want
Take
to
it,
present
Alpha.
it as being difficult because I didn't want to extend the tension. And two, I actually wanted to
Lost
see
C.
how far I could take it. Maybe it would
Oh, I see
Zone
you.
A secured. Losing C. Lock it down, Charlie.
control over
That's right, you shithead. The CIA's
Are
nothing
you on
without us.
shrooms? Am I on shrooms?
So, you know, instead of just pleading the fifth as I'm supposed to do, in situations like this, I just kept giving him answers. And there were moments where I was very revealing about hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes, right? Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What's up with that, you know? And the guy actually was very sympathetic. The agent was very sympathetic. And I don't know if it was like JCS style technique to come across as sympathetic to like invoke some kind of positive feelings out of me in an effort to like get me to reveal something maybe that'll trip me up, or because he just genuinely was sympathetic and he had the vibes of someone who was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? But he was like, listen, I'm Iraqi, so I know. And let me tell you, I do think that him being Iraqi played a big role in this, because if he wasn't, there was a lot of Redditor-ass white boys that are at Customs and Border Patrol at O'Hare Airport. I saw them walk by. There was a dude who looked like he was like 25 max, but he was balding. And I knew immediately, if that mother is my agent, I'm screwed. I'm going to CCOT. This dude is going to literally cook me. So I got a little lucky. All right. I will admit. So basically, I think the reason why they sent the Iraqi CBP agent is because they bracket you into different categories. For me, they wanted to conduct an investigation about my involvement with Hamas and my involvement with the Houthis, or they suspected my involvement. Straight up. That's
Destroy
literally
the
what
enemy.
this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like, they literally tried to get something out of me that I
We're winning. Keep it that way.
basically detained. Because there is no direct.
Stars reclaim the lead.
I'm telling you, you Chicago,
Target
Hostile dust.
and I was like, so why are you guys doing this?
We've taken the lead. Stay on task.
Routine process. I was like, it doesn't feel too routine. And basically, my big fear from the entire situation would have
frag.
I don't want the federal government inside of my phone beyond the, beyond all of the times where they probably have been engaging in like warrantless surveillance on my phone. Like, it's none of your business. You know what I mean? It's none of your business. It's a goddamn free country. Like, there's privacy. So, for those of you who don't know, by the way, they can't actually unlock your phone. Technically, you can put your face and unlock it that way. So, just so you know, they could technically do that, okay? They could technically do that, but there's a trick. If you're traveling internationally, or if you have your regular phone, you can use your passcode. You're not to cancel biometrics like your Face ID. What you can do is click it 5 times. If you click, hold 5 times, it will actually disable Face ID, and it will force you to put.
Lock up. Sniper.
There are laws against like the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in. They can't actually access. There's different methods of how they can actually.
Check your fire.
Like plug it in. All of the information in your phone. So it is what it is. I don't know if you can actually do that if your phone.
Deploying RCXD.
About all these things, I had already unlocked the biometrics. I disallowed biometrics.
Eyes on shock charge.
It's a Faraday cage once you get into the detention center anyway, so you can't actually send there's no access to the internet. I'm sitting there and they're asking me about Trump, they're asking me about like Hamas, and he kept saying stuff like, do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist group or a resistance group? Like, he just kept asking over and over again, right? I kept repeating the same statement over and over again. I kept saying a couple different things. One, in terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end. I just kept repeating that.
Kane requesting LDBR fire mission.
That's my question. State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. So he just kept asking me over and over again, like Hamas, who?
Check your fire.
To be like, oh, do you support them? Do you like them? Like, what do you think about them? Which I thought was insane. The reality of the matter is, up until this very moment, if you were to say, as an American citizen, you stand 10 toes down with Hamas or you stand 10 toes down with the Houthis or whatever they can't deny you entry into the country for that. But I don't know what the they're trying to do. So I was like, I'm not going to go beyond it. I'm not going to go beyond just like reiterating over and over again. The American government's position is that Hamas is a terrorist organization. But then he just kept asking me about the Houthis. He's like, well, do you agree with the terrorist designation for the Houthis? And I said, I'm of the Brookings Institute mindset that in 2020, when Donald Trump initially designated the Houthis as a terror organization, that was a major mistake. I talk about these issues from an academic context with humanitarian rights organizations and with academics and with journalists. As a matter of fact, this is completely protected under First Amendment laws, and therefore, I don't understand what the reason why we're having this conversation is. And I kept saying that over and over again, at which point he just like kind of gave up. But what I thought was really interesting was, and I even followed it up with like, I said, I call balls and strikes, and there are things that Trump has done that I actually agree with, and I'm not shy about saying those things, even though initially he said he was going to end all these wars. He hasn't done so. I think these wars are unnecessary. They're costly, and a lot of civilians die in the process. I don't think it's appropriate. I think it's very inappropriate, and it must end, right? Like that's my position. But I do think that Trump did a good thing where he implemented a ceasefire with the Houthis. So when he does stuff like that, when I agree with him, I tell him what's what. When I agree with Trump in a decision, I'm open about it, right? So I explained that to him, and I just yapped away over and over and over again. And what I found to be particularly interesting was in the first half of the conversation, it was just like basically a fact-finding mission, right? Try to get me to say something that I think would be of interest. In the second part of the conversation, there were some real actionable items that he presented that, depending on how I answer those questions, like I'm going to jail. Because the first stuff was just illegal for him to ask me those questions and completely idiotic and ridiculous. And I think they did it because they know who the fuck I am and they wanted to put the fear of God into me, not knowing that I'm a stubborn piece of and, you know, that's not going to work at all, right? The second half of the conversation was actually like, because he left, went away for like 35 minutes, came back, and then he asked like actionable items. But one thing that I will take note of that I thought was very interesting was the fact that a lot of the that like the Ethan Kleins of the world have like cried about over and over again were unironically brought up in that conversation. And I was shocked. Okay. Not like the bleach sword, obviously, but like the Houthi. Like, did you interview a Houthi? It says here that you interviewed a Houthi. And I was like, or was he actually a Houthi? And I was like, he's not. You can look to all of the reporting that came out afterwards and before I interviewed him, that he's not a Houthi, that he is a regular Yemeni citizen. And I said, like, his name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a Shia. And the dude, luckily, again, Iraqi, went, oh, yeah, that's right. That's a Sunni last name. Al-Haddad is a Sunni last name. So he must not have been a Houthi. And the very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely, in that moment, was thinking, like, these dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fire. And I even thought about not even mentioning this because I was like, I don't want to give him any sort of like power over the situation. But like the reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these dip are playing a formative role in getting people in trouble with the law, okay? That is literally the case. It was shocking that that was the case, but it is the case. And it's actually very frustrating that it is the case, that this administration doesn't care. That's why they work with Beitar. That's why they work with all these other insane groups. The Barry Weisses of the world actually have motion in this goddamn admin. They're cheering this on over at eSub. Yeah, I know.
Hard point.
Some of my liberals.
Go time. Capture the objective.
Progressive voices in the country getting detained by the Trump Gestapo.
Hard point is secure. We've taken control.
Hey, incoming lethal!
They asked me about my Twitch bans, okay? And
Hostiles have captured the hard point.
I talked about how 9/11. You know, I do have sometimes.
This shit ain't working. We've lost the advantage. Hard point locked down.
Yeah, watch it!
Nice. We're pulling ahead.
9/11 stuff. Yeah, they asked me about my Twitch bans, chat. It's not even a joke. They asked me
cancel that. Eyes on enemy.
The other Twitch ban he asked me about was the last one that I got banned, and I explained to him like.
Hostiles have the hard point. Hard point identified.
Under normal circumstances, I'm supposed to say, I want a lawyer. I don't want to talk to you. But nothing I'm doing is illegal. I wanted to see what happened.
Hard point is active.
I wanted to see
Hard point is
what
secure.
would happen. I wanted to actually see this experience.
Wow, I am way too blazed for this right now.
I'm going to entertain this. I'm going to see what they actually are trying to get out of this. And I'm glad I did this because the reality of the matter is, one, I'm profoundly privileged.
Aguinaldo
okay?
calling in a CUAV.
Person.
Hostiles have
And
captured the
also,
hard point.
fight back against this sort of thing. And they know who the create an environment of fear to try to get myself, or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security.
Hard point located.
Every single thing that they ask me, trying to get me to say something like, oh, I or whatever.
Hard point active.
Is denying me entry into the
Hard point locked down.
You can't just stop me
Using field upgrade. Boo.
to enter the nation. Like that was the first half when they said after the Twitch bans, they asked about like listen. I was like, call for the assassination of the senator. Saying I was talking about the hypocrisy of the Republicans, blah blah blah. I explained all that. I'd ever actually been
Hardpoint
in contact with
identified.
Hezbollah, if I'd actually ever offered financial support or logistics or any kind of support to Hamas or Hezbollah.
This is a weird career pivot.
Hardpoint
Operator
down.
establishing score streak.
Hostiles have the hard
That
point.
was, once again,
UAV
these are
established the red.
questions they're asking. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was
Hey, incoming laser! Enemy field upgrade. Not good.
Check.
communication or correspondence with a member
Hardpoint is
of
secure.
Hezbollah or the Houthis. Now, what's really insane about that is that
TACOM, launching counter UAV. TACOM, get a UAV in the air.
journalism, right?
Priority tasking request received.
Over and over again,
UAV exiting AO.
the opportunity to talk to someone that is a part of the Ansar Allah movement, a Houthi, or even Hamas, or even Hezbollah. Right? I think that I have the right to do so. So that is the part where they were like, if you answer yes to any of that, that's when, there's like
Hardpoint
stuff
located.
in there. Having said that, there is one part of it that wasn't illegal, which is being in communications or being in contact with someone at Hamas. Like,
Hardpoint active. Hardpoint locked down.
you can interview ISIS. Like, what are we talking about?
TACOM, launching UAV.
Or the Customs and Border Patrol.
Hardpoint is secure. Hostiles got started.
Directly talk to Hamas. A couple months
Hardpoint locked down.
contact with the Houthis.
Hostiles have the hardpoint.
And so is BO6. Like, these will deny you entry into
Chopper gunner also.
like, what are we talking about? What do you mean?
Hostile
Admiral
sighted.
calling in UAV.
Hardpoint is secure.
That part was frustrating. And the interview,
Enemy destroyed your trophy system.
Hey, incoming laser!
asking, like, so what is the purpose of this? Like, am I being detained?
Hardpoint identified.
Hostile shooter.
Hardpoint is active.
TACOM, get me a hellstorm.
Hardpoint locked down.
Get me a counter UAV in the air.
That's your Fourth Amendment, right? No, you don't have. Okay, I need you to understand something.
There's an enemy shooter!
We have the edge.
Using
Don't
lethal.
get cocky. This shit ain't over.
Some questions, but it's after that. I don't know if that's like I got lucky there.
Hardpoint located.
And I don't know if that's the reason why I didn't use my phone, but I wasn't playing.
Hostiles captured the hardpoint.
Anyway, that was my point.
Hardpoint
there was
active.
a line where I was going to say, I'm done with this. Either arrest me or...
Hardpoint is secure.
Enemy field upgrade. Not good.
Yes, ICE agents took me to a detention center.
Hey, incoming laser! Tactical incoming!
Hostiles have the hardpoint.
I thought it was going to be. I will admit.
Hardpoint locked down.
I probably should have asked, am I being detained from the start? And I probably would have had him. He said, security. What is DHS?
Hardpoint identified.
Submit an inquiry at dhs.gov/trip.
Enemy field upgrade.
Ask why
Not good.
I was stopped.
Hardpoint is active.
Information to which a response will be directed and be assigned a case number to help you monitor the progress of your inquiry, which I will do.
Hardpoint is secure.
And he basically said, you can figure out what not to do.
Perfect execution. The Pantheon's probably pissing themselves
God,
right
is that
now.
blood? Nobody told me there would be blood.
Commentator that speaks about American foreign policy. Now, why did I tell you about this experience? Okay? Why did I tell you about in my mind, maybe I shouldn't. The goal is unafraid of intimidating you in illegal ways is, okay, the government is now officially willing and able to intimidate you for your speech. That is a direct violation of the First Amendment. I'm no First Amendment auditor. I'm no big city libertarian. I'm no maritime law. But the reality of the matter is that as of this administration, they are totally willing and able to actually come after you for your speech. And even with like ridiculous, like they're willing and able to go along with like stuff that gets written in the free press, or willing and able to go along with that even editors bring up. Okay, that's how stupid and silly this situation has gotten. Now, of course, does this stop me from saying whatever the I want to say? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it was to give you more insight into what the government is doing and to speak out against this sort of stuff, because I do have a position of privilege here, and I want to make sure that like you should know your rights, that you should not be fearful, and you should not worry, especially if you're an American citizen, that these guys are going to come after you and like arrest you or something. Okay, but it is pretty wild, I will say. As someone who's been held up in airports many times over, it was actually shocking that these guys totally grabbed me, knowing exactly who I am, knowing that I will most likely talk about this, with the hopes that I think that they would at least stoke some fear and threaten people like myself, and then also threaten others as a byproduct of this. I mean, it backfired in my situation, but I hope this doesn't discourage others from speaking out as well. They don't have the right to do this, okay? They do not have a right to do this. If you don't already know, your ops are doing mass email campaigns to the feds to try and get this exact same thing to happen. Yeah, I know. They can suck my for all of my dumbass ops. I think it's really, really crazy that the government is willing and able to work with like genuine schizophrenic stalkers, whether they be Beitar or any other group. It is actually wild that they're willing and able to work with these people. It blows my mind, but you know, that is where we're at. It also blows my mind that there are people who see this kind of stuff and go, oh, that's wonderful. It's like swatting. But this time, it's a federal swatting that we can do. We can get the federal agents to like jail people that my favorite content creator doesn't like. Airports are not constitutional free zones. That's a lie the ICE pushes to make you comply with them. That's not entirely correct, Lesbian Bolivar. There's years and years of precedent in post 9/11 war on terror world where they have actually created a structure where they can get away with violating your Fourth Amendment rights in airports. Like, it's an illegal gray area. Here was low overrules take. DHS flagging and detaining one of U.S.'s largest left-wing voices for their political opinions, while the Trump admin suggests they might suspend habeas corpus, does not portend well for the future. Yeah, that's where we're at. What was the reason for the detainment? You know what the reason for the detainment was. It's because I am flagged in the flight manifest. Is this going to change the way you travel? No, but it does actually gum up the works a little bit in terms of going to Cuba. I forgot. There was other questions that they asked, like, have you traveled to the Middle East? Have you been to any of the Gulf states? All this and, you know, it is what it is. I'm not.
You should cancel that Cuba trip, friend.
I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. That was my Customs and Border Patrol experience. And yeah, it's just like pure intimidation tactics. And it was very similar to the experience that one TikToker talked about. But luckily, I never got to the point of having them go through my phone. And that was my red line, like no matter what. That was where I was going to be like, no, you can't do that. And, you know, arrest me then if you want to. Oh, this is the experience that it closely resembled, by the way. ICE detains a woman who runs anti-Trump TikTok. She's a U.S. citizen born and raised. She was detained for hours as agents searched her phone and social media, even demanding financial statements on how much she earns on TikTok. They never asked me for my financial statements either. The woman who goes by I of Sav was returning from a European vacation at the Miami International Airport with a valid global re-entry card issued to her as a U.S. citizen, but she also had global entry. How worried were you about actually being arrested? I have no idea. I had no idea if I was going to be arrested or not. I didn't know if this was going to be a moment where I was going to be the precedent-setting court case. You know what I mean? Like, that is definitely a worry that I have for sure. It's something that I think about because eventually, somewhere along the line, someone is going to be the precedent-setting court case of whether or not someone gets prosecuted for speech and speech alone. Because the line right now is material support, and that line is being blurred by this current administration with Mahmoud Khalil, with Mohsen Mahdawi, with Rumeysa Öztürk, right? Some of those people have been released at this point, but Mahmoud Khalil is still very much in detention. And according to Marco Rubio, the argument that they are trying to use news is that speech is material support, right? They are actively trying to blur the boundaries between what constitutes material support to try to make it seem as though things that would be protected under First Amendment would be considered material support. Expressing any sort of opinion is considered material support. And that's maybe you shouldn't have said if they come for me, then it's over, as if you'd be last. If you're a public figure, dog, maybe you'd be first. No, because they haven't come for me beyond like being a nuisance and being annoying and thinking that they can get away with like trying to put some sort of fear in my heart, which is of course not going to work, obviously. Do you think that's all they wanted? I don't know. Maybe they're setting up an investigation for the future. Who knows? We'll find out. We shall find out. Seamus said, been pulled into secondary screening many times at O'Hare. CBP had the most involved in specific questions about Gaza for me by far. Glad to see you got out of there without having to give up your devices. Yeah. Are you concerned about landing in LA? No, because that's domestic travel. There's no Customs and Border Patrol experience during domestic travel. It'd be insane. But yeah, I am my worst enemy in that regard. I did want to get this interaction out because I wanted to like figure out what the they were doing, and I'm fortunate that I didn't actually get into any additional.
He should postpone that Cuba trip. Keep himself away from them.
Citizens waiting. There were. It's evil. Yeah, it's so much worse for them because like I am profoundly privileged, as I say all the time. I'm profoundly privileged. I'm rich.
Team
I'm an
deathmatch.
American citizen. I was born
Eliminate
here,
the enemy.
you know? I mean, I'm a public figure on top of that. So all of this stuff plays a role in how protected I am from additional scrutiny. I'm not doing anything that is illegal to begin with, but I'm not even doing anything that like reaches the territory of edge. No matter how much slop tubers try to make it seem as though like I'm running around waving the Hamas like, which still would be protected under not stop the Gestapo from denying me entry to my own. Regardless, what I talked about on this broadcast are still completely protected, but also on top of that, like not even reaching the standard of like truly questionable speech, regardless of what like Mudahar or Asmongold claims it is, right? It doesn't reach that standard. And that's precisely the reason why they have to actively context and desperately try to create drama surrounding this so they can get some action on it, so they can make it seem as though this is actually a truly radical speech that's like really f***ed up. Does that make sense? Because like when a platform like Twitch actually does take action against someone like myself, then use that as a way to say, oh, he did do something bad. He did do something f***ed up. So it is what it is.
Ridiculous, and it's making a mockery out of the court system. I got folks calling in here drinking.
Hostile UAV. Stay there.
Ways I have a 30-year career as a judge, and my court's getting worse every day because of these knuckleheads.
Today we'll be exploring the insanity that is Zoom court.
I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I, Wavy, fake online paralegal, will be taking you on a tour of the most hilarious thing. 200 an hour, by the way.
Not a disrespect that I've encountered since this Zoom court stuff. It really just blows my mind.
Kobe Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the most perpetually confused man in a Michigan native whose driver's license status is truly one of the great mysteries of the universe. Active, suspended, or revoked? Not even he really knows. This dumb led to a lot of public controversy after a viral Zoom clip showcased him attending a virtual hearing for driving without a license from the driver's seat of a moving vehicle.
Mr. Harris, are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually. So just give me 1 second. I'm parking right now.
This stun-locked chauffeur here became something of a meme due to his slack-jawed expression and the sheer brazen stupidity of what he did. But did he actually do anything wrong at all? See, in the aftermath of this clip, Budget Bin CeeLo Green here would claim the entire ordeal was just a big misunderstanding, and when the truth came out, we would be the ones looking like we just shit ourselves in traffic.
I've been assaulted, I've been followed, I've been laughed at, I've been ridiculed, I have been disrespected.
So what is the real story here? Well, let's back things up and start from the beginning. In October of 2023, 44-year-old Michigan man Corey Harris was given a citation by a police officer in Washtenaw County after he was pulled over for having an expired license plate on the vehicle he was driving. Upon further inspection, the man was also found to have been driving without a valid license. Corey was expected to appear in front of court at a later date, and all things considered, it was said to have been a cordial, routine traffic stop. And after this run-in with the law, Corey Harris learned his lesson and never got behind the wheel of a vehicle without a license again.
Yes, I am.
No, that's not what happens at all. In fact, given what transpires next, it's very likely that Corey Harris started driving even more after getting pulled over. Several months later, on May 15th of 2024, Corey Harris would attend his scheduled court hearing over virtual Zoom court. His hearing being presided over by Judge Cedric Simpson, a judge that has become somewhat famous here on YouTube, as his court actively live streams its hearings.
You don't want to go down and see Mr. Fink? You don't want to do that? You want to try to overtalk me? You just come down here and you're going to have to show it.
Many viral Zoom court defendant disaster clips are made here live, and Corey Harris was
kill confirmed.
Judge Simpson's
All targets declared hostile. Happy hunting, Crimson.
With Simpson announcing the case and prosecuting and defending attorneys identifying themselves. But the moment Corey's Zoom feed loads,
the lead is ours.
Any chance of this being a routine suspended license hearing was found out of the driver's side window. Corey answered the call for his suspended license.
Hostile suit! Sniper smoke! Move, move!
Are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually. So just give me 1 second. I'm parking right now.
Hey, cabron! Requesting recon above. TACOM, deploy counter UAV. TACOM, I need to go ahead.
Says this in such a shit-eating way, like the judge is about to compliment him on his dedication to safety.
Yes, I am.
Finding a healthcare provider is a stressful process. I think we can all relate to a time where we had to go in blind to a doctor.
Find cover!
It's no fun, and
get a UAV on grid. TACOM, deploy counter UAV.
Today, guys. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality providers, helping you weed.
Enemy UAV inbound.
Skip the secretaries and suspended license by the court.
Everyone in the courtroom is in total shock, with Corey seeming completely oblivious. Judge Simpson here. I contain myself. I'd be laughing my ass off at this buffoon, but he manages to keep it together.
This is a driving while license suspended.
That is correct.
Throwing Semtex!
Semtex, front! Eyes on enemy!
Mr. Harris completely loses his grasp on the English language.
TACOM, I need eyes overhead. Get counter UAV in the air. Requesting CUAV above. Requesting recon above.
Find cover!
Stupid person caught driving by the judge.
Get a UAV on grid.
Its clips and screenshots soon go viral across the internet. Man with suspended license appears in virtual court while driving. It was the funny headline.
Enemy RTXD detected.
Toro requesting hard tasking.
Commenting about the sheer idiocy of his actions and posts featuring it. As the internet was laughing, Corey Harris would turn himself into chaos. The man would spend 2 days in jail relating to most thought this to be the end of the matter entirely. But Mr. Harris is about to take sometime after Corey Harris got out of jail, he would claim this entire situation was the government's fault, and he was being framed for a crime that how? We literally saw him in 4K shitting himself in front of the judge while driving that car, right? Well, Harris would later protest that the license suspension in question had actually been reversed back in 2022, and due to a clerical error, it was never updated in the system.
The suspension was tied to unpaid child support and lifted 2 years ago.
Archangel going hot.
Records show a judge ordered that suspension lifted in January 2022, but a spokesperson for the Secretary of State said they couldn't receive the clearance from the head of the court.
Hold the line, Crimson. This is ours to lose.
Get out! Strike!
Stand down, Crimson. We have what we came for.
Oh, hell yeah! That's how it's done!
It turns out there's more to the story. It turns out that a judge actually ordered that the suspension of the license be lifted way back in January of 2022. Then for some reason, the Michigan Secretary... According to Harris, he believed that he had every right to be behind the wheel, telling the XYZ.
With the type of ties that I have with the church and the community, it's very embarrassing.
But still, because he got caught on that Zoom, he ended up spending 2 nights in jail. And not only that, Harris claimed that the reason that he was doing it for no reason, he said he was actually driving his wife to the doctor because her medical condition was worsening.
In addition to being embarrassed and relentlessly mocked online, Harris also claimed the arrest resulting from this apparent clerical mix-up had caused him to be stalked and assaulted.
It has literally been pure OD hell. I've been assaulted. I've been followed. I've been laughed at. I've been ridiculed. I have been disrespected.
You know what, Corey? I think we were wrong about you, bud. You didn't deserve the government screwing you out of your license. After all, that judge unsuspended it back in 2022. You shouldn't have been arrested on Zoom for driving in the first place. This whole thing was just unfair. All the jokes that I've made about you in this video, I take them all back. I apologize. At least that's what I would say if Corey Harris wasn't a big fat liar.
And so I am going to make sure that the record is very, very clear as to what this court knows and what this court acted on May 15th.
On June 5th, 2024, Harris would attend a scheduled court hearing related to the matter of his infamous Zoom arrest. Many were expecting the judge to issue some sort of apology on behalf of the state or to exonerate Corey Harris of any driving-related infractions. However, what actually happened was Judge Simpson, in surgically precise fashion, exposing Mr. Corey Harris as a complete fraud, debunking his bogus story, and revealing to the public an unbelievable piece of information. Corey Harris never had his license suspended. In fact, Corey Harris never had received a driver's license in his entire life. And the prior suspension actually regarded his right to acquire a license in the first place.
He has never had a Michigan
Team deathmatch. Another day in paradise, Black Ops. We've taken control.
He has never had a license. When they suspended his license in Southern, they don't suspend the license. They suspend the privilege to drive in this state.
Simpson continues by explaining his first driver's license
using lethal
and take the test, but either out of sheer laziness, idiocy, or
you've fallen behind
yet to do so.
Were unsuspended in 2022. Now, I hated that I had to look at all of this, but when there's
hostile sighted.
Hey, come on, you're losing this fight.
In addition to this, the judge would address an excuse where he stated he was unable to physically go to the Secretary of
I probably should not be operating heavy machinery.
He actually went to that very office to renew his normal state ID.
Basically, Barry was housebound. He could not get to the Secretary of State. He stated that he could not get
Worst thing.
Find a way.
No more sniper. Boom.
And the reason I know that
You guys try talking it out instead of the whole fighting. Maybe. The higher I get, the better I do. Talking about this on my podcast. Hey, incoming lethal!
Finish line's in sight. Don't let up.
As his lies were completely
Shooter in my
exposed and
sights.
his excuses completely debunked. The defeated those watching the live stream, I had the audacity to wear a t-shirt that had the trust me on the front and had the image of a hand with its fingers crossed.
Hang on. Let me call Langley. Give him the good news.
Greatest trolls in history. Like, you cannot make this shit up.
Playing like dog shit this morning.
License the entire time.
When I was at the police department yesterday, we watched the body cam video. At least twice during this traffic stop, he acknowledged to the officer that he did not have his license. Quote, actually, I don't.
And with that, Corey Harris, once believed to be the most confused man in American history, was now proven to be nothing more than a bumbling with a penchant for looking stupid no matter the venue. While driving on Zoom, lying to the public on television, throwing a pity party, and even while physically in court, this man somehow finds a way to make a laughingstock out of himself. After the hearing, Harris was ordered back into custody due to a standing bench warrant associated with another unrelated case for driving with a suspended license, which I will not be covering today. He would be bailed out shortly after by his wife. And with that, the saga that began with Corey's infamous Zoom court appearance finally had some closure. There is something of a positive ending to this story, as it does appear that Corey just may have learned his lesson. Harris's attorney, Dion Webster Cox, would later give an update on her client, stating that Corey was taking proper steps in getting a driver's learning permit, and that her office was helping him do so. On June 7th, 2024, Corey Harris would celebrate publicly, revealing that he had finally gotten his learner's permit. And about a month later after that, on July 8th, 2024, Corey Harris, for the first time in his life, would receive a driver's license. Finally, on August 7th, 2024, Harris appeared in court once again, but now that he had secured a driver's license, his charge would be downgraded from a misdemeanor, and the fines and costs associated with the charges were waived. In all seriousness, though, congratulations to Corey Harris. It took you a while, but you are now a functioning adult. I'll see you on the road, big guy.
With this virtual Zoom stuff, people just letting caution to the wind, like there's no decorum at
Team Deathmatch. You want to clear your name? This is where it happens. We got the lead. Now hold it.
Paul looked down at the hand that had known pain, then up to the Reverend Mother. Her voice contained a difference then from any other voice in his experience. The words were outlined in
Target confirmed.
He felt that any question he might ask him would bring an answer that could lift him out of his flesh world into something else. Turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free.
Yeah, watch it!
Other men with machines to enslave them. Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a man's mind, quoted. Right out of the Butlerian Jihad and the Orange Catholic Bible, she said.
You fall behind!
Says, thou shalt not make a machine to counterfeit a human mind. So across
I gotcha.
When a new story breaks about the horrific use of AI by those in power, people cry out for the Butlerian Jihad. You see this across Twitter, you see this across BlueSky, and for those of us who are Doom fans, you know, those of us who are in power, have said is, when a new story breaks about the horrific use of AI by those in power, or even just in society, people cry out for the Butlerian
jihad. You see this across Twitter, you see this across BlueSky, and you know what they're like. Now in today's video, I want to talk about the Butlerian jihad, about what is right about AI, kind of. And we're going to read parts of Dune, we're going to read parts of several Dune books actually, we're going to read Herbert, and I want to talk about some of the latest horror stories we've been seeing with AI. Do we need a Butlerian jihad in real life? Because in
Shut up, nerds!
Is the complete destruction of AI systems. I think most people are obviously saying that. And actually, if you of the hatred show and the movies which are set in the same universe, so I am a big Dune fan. I've read 6 Dune books. I've read them in like 9 months. I made a whole video on my second channel reviewing them. If you want more Dune books, but basically, what the Butlerian jihad Herbert Dune books is pretty much different than what it is in the Brian Herbert books, which influenced the show. So in the Brian Herbert books, what the Butlerian jihad is a war led by the people who would become House Reno, which is the family that all the Emperors are in. They lead this war against AI, which has essentially become like Skynet from Terminator. I don't actually consider this the Butlerian jihad. In terms of some backstory for the show, I don't really mind, but I actually don't want to talk about that at all today because I don't consider the Brian Herbert books relevant and I don't consider them canon. And like I said, a vague backstory to a show based on his other books, I don't really care, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the original Dune's messaging on things like AI. And of course, the original Dune books were written in the 1960s and the last one came out in either 1985 or 1986 before Frank Herbert actually passed away. And just to say, this video is just like a pure passion video for me. I don't really care how it does. I just really wanted to make it. And it's been in my like video ideas list for the longest time. And I'm really happy I'm going to be able to share my thoughts with you today. Slight spoiler warning. I'm not going to spoil Dune Messiah, don't worry. Like, I don't even have the ebook, so I couldn't screenshot parts of Dune Messiah. If you are so sensitive to spoilers, you don't want to hear about potentially new characters in terms of maybe some characters you've seen in the movies have children, maybe skip the Dune part of this video, but I'm not going to spoil the plot of Dune Messiah or anything like that, so don't worry about that type of thing. But before we go any further, I just want to shout out again, my girlfriend is running a half marathon and raising money for medical aid for Palestinians. That is happening this week, so please, if you haven't already, consider giving some money, and if you have already given to this or given to my fundraiser last year, thank you so much. And
All right, so Tony Hinchcliffe was just on Bill Maher's podcast, and this has to be one of the only times Tony's done a podcast with a comedian that's more arrogant and egotistical than him. So it was interesting. I mean, this podcast, it was kind of like Kill Tony with Tony as the open micer. I mean, Bill was even making fun of Tony's comedy. Right in the beginning, he put Tony on the spot, and he was sarcastically being like, oh no, it's this scary insult comic. Should I be worried? Then he asked Tony to do some crowd work and roast him, and Tony bombed, and then Bill roasted him the rest of the podcast.
A pleasure to meet you. Oh, the insult comic. I can feel the barbs coming. Should I not sit in the front row?
No, you're safe.
If I'm in the front row, am I going to get spritzed with the comic barbs? You're not going to ask me where I'm from?
No crowd work on you.
No, come on. Do some crowd work. Ask me where I'm from.
If you want an insult comic, Tony is the best in the world.
His great specialty is roasting.
Right.
So the best roaster ever.
Where are you from?
New Jersey. Come on. There's a slow pitch down the middle of the plate, bro. New Jersey.
That is a shithole, indeed.
Well, come on, you could do better than a shithole, isn't that what you're famous?
Warm up. I learned that early.
Are you married?
No.
Never been married?
No. Well, I was married for a short period of time.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that's right.
No, I'm high as shit, but I was married for a couple
high
years.
as shit, and I forgot marriage.
Yeah, where I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, a very, very at the time dangerous.
But the most dangerous neighborhood in America is Appalachia.
Where's that? What do you mean? The city? The place?
It's not a city.
Yeah, like in the mountains. What do you mean?
Jesus, didn't you go to high school?
Yeah.
And Tony said he grew up watching Bill and is a fan, so maybe he's just nervous because he seems scared to offend him or get in an argument with him, and he just let Bill walk all over him. You know, because if you're going to do this podcast, you got to be more aggressive, or else he's just going to dominate the conversation and interrupt constantly and talk down to you, which is what happened here. You know, Tony didn't stand a chance, and he clearly just wanted Bill to like him. But it seemed like Bill just kind of thought he was a goofball, and he kept laughing at him. I mean, at one point, Tony was talking about his Puerto Rico joke controversy, and Bill thought it was the funniest shit ever, because Tony said going into that, he's really hoping to impress Trump. But of course, afterwards, Trump wanted nothing to do with him, even though now that Trump has won, I'm sure he doesn't care as much. But Bill thinks his story's hilarious, and he just had dinner with Trump. So he's like, isn't it crazy you kiss Trump's ass and perform for him for free? And he pretends like he doesn't know you, but I trash him nonstop for like almost a decade, and I get invited to the White House.
A silly performance on the Tom Brady roast or whatever. It was also to fucking have the president go, that was cool. Thanks, man. That's awesome. I liked your segment.
Domination.
I did. Of course, that room is
Pacify the AO, kill team.
Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea.
Securing B.
Never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him.
I feel so bad about that. You go and you're for him, and you're working for him, and you like him. Get back here! Nothing but for 10 years, and I get the invite.
Isn't it wild?
So Kill Tony open micers probably enjoyed this episode because Bill kept roasting Tony and probably
Bravo underway.
just like Tony does to them.
Losing
stand. Completely out of his element here. Like usually he's trying to be as offensive.
We're losing Charlie.
Hold back.
Taking
And
B.
they're going at him. But
They're taking C. Bravo is ours.
Which
Taking Alpha.
A little bit, you know, people in the comments are like, wow,
Losing Bravo. We've lost Charlie.
Requesting LCPR!
I mean, there's so many times.
We lost B. Losing A. Locking down Charlie. Hostile RPXD in your area. Locking down Bravo. Hostile UAV established overhead.
Surprising, you know, this is classic here.
Bravo zone secure.
I mean, this isn't a surprise that he's acting like this. So you kind of have to try to
Securing C.
a little, like Bill Burr and some other comedians.
We're losing Alpha.
So Bill was probably expecting to have some banter with him, but Tony didn't roast him. Bill kept trashing Trump supporters like Tony, but Tony would just laugh at it and not really have any response. And at one point, it seemed like Bill was expecting. Obviously, that's what Tony's known for, and you do that to anybody else that says something like this.
Losing A.
Bill basically calls Trump supporters. He's waiting for Tony to
Losing
respond,
B.
and he thinks he's probably going to insult him. So he's like, "Oh, whatever you're about to say, I."
Securing Charlie.
Hold them back!
We lost A.
That's why I think you're a centrist.
Losing Bravo.
I'm on the objective.
Sure, I'll take that.
If you take
All zones lost. Zone Charlie. Securing B. B locked down.
UAV commencing surveillance operation.
Doesn't mean it's not crazy.
Losing B.
That's fine. Look, you've been talking to me for.
UAV MTF.
Exactly.
Losing Bravo. We're losing Charlie.
Mission timeline expired. UAV RTB.
Tony spent a lot of time
Losing
trying to
B.
get Bill, by talking about how he understands Bill and he got all his political opinions from
Losing
him.
Bravo.
Elon Musk are all centrist.
Net call. Enemy watchdog helo inbound. They're taking C. Losing B. Bravo lost.
Calling himself a centrist. Like,
We lost all zones. Locking down Bravo. Locking down Charlie. Control Zone C.
Take out that watchdog helo!
Securing Zone A. Hostile identified. We're losing Charlie.
Going down.
Securing Alpha. Your tactics aren't working.
They are.
yeah, so Tony's just such a kiss ass. It's hilarious. Like, he wants Bill to like him so much. He's trying to convince him that they have the same political views. But Bill's just like, no, we don't. Don't lump me in with you, Rogan and Elon. So Tony was just trying way too hard to pander to Bill, and it was embarrassing. And it's just like with him and Trump. You know, he wanted Trump to like him so badly. He got carried away with it and ended up blowing it. And now he wants Bill to like him, and he's just embarrassing himself again. Like, also, he tried to explain to Bill how the 2020 election might have been rigged. And Bill looks at him like he's crazy, and he's like, are you serious? And of course, Tony starts to backpedal, and he's like, well, I'm not saying I believe that. So he's really cautious when he's talking about this stuff with Bill. Like, also, Bill asks him if he believes in Pizzagate, and Tony's like, no, that's a really fringe theory. But I feel like he's only saying this because he doesn't want Bill to think he's crazy. You know, around Bill, he seems to tone everything down a lot, and he just wants Bill to like him.
Because they don't accept election results. Nothing is more important to me than that. You have to accept election results. That's the basis of everything.
Right.
And they're not there.
Yeah. You have no thoughts about the fact that perhaps because, you know, it was a lockdown and everything that, and, you know, extra reviewers, you know, like from both sides could be in the voting areas and stuff, you know.
You're still saying the 2020 election was not fair? Because even his own security team said it was fair.
I get it.
A lot of Republicans have. I mean,
right.
That's a dead horse that you got to stop beating.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I think that. But there were a lot of votes that didn't vote this year, and those votes
Team deathmatch.
for the
Neutralize all threats.
Well, he lost. He ran 3 times. He lost 1 and won 2.
We've claimed the advantage. Now hold it.
They're gonna compare this to like Hillary ran a file ring out of a pizza. Now, I don't really believe Hillary.
After grenade! Semtex, front!
People have reason to be suspicious.
That's the farthest extreme of those.
It's not a.
Flashbang incoming!
Let's put it this way. Representative in the administration. You don't think? And I don't know. Some of these people, Pam Bondi. You don't think they believe in things like that?
Yeah, so I guess that's what a podcast with 2 of the most insufferable comedians is like. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you think was more annoying. And if you want about the time Shane Gillis realized Tony's ego was completely out of control, and how he keeps roasting Tony whenever he goes on Kill Tony. Or if you want to hear about when Mark Zuckerberg tried to sell out to Joe Rogan himself, plus probably 130 others.
Learned your fucking lesson
so
yet?
If you like the channel, if you're a fan of the content and want extra content, check it out. It's definitely worth it. I'll put a link.
Sure.
We've given up the lead. taken the lead. Stay on task.
No, they weren't. LOL. They were laughing. I just don't understand why you people lie so much. Like, what is in your brain that causes you to lie so much? I just don't get it. Here, I like literally. I was very value trained. I just don't know what compels people to lie in this way. Like, this, I had screenshot of it. It was fucking hilarious. But during this segment, anyway, she's pretty, but you don't have ass. My eyes do that a lot with Flash. I can't lie. I don't.
Also,
Move up. Screenshots I got. Something fucking funny.
one in my sights.
All female friendships are like one disagreement away from like a crash out or something. People fantasizing about like, you don't understand.
Setting waypoint.
I bet she didn't even show us photos.
Lockdown shooter.
I'm sorry, it is girl code that anytime you post photos of yourself and someone else with them, you're like, hey, is it cool if I post this photo? Which is what happened. And I was like, yeah, go for it.
It's open.
And I'm not even saying she looks like that. I'm just saying this is a bad photo.
She's a beautiful girl. Sorry, one more time. Sorry.
Looks like that. I'm just saying this is a Sure.
Setting waypoint. Let's go. Sir.
And then I went weird.
wearing the same type of shirt, and it seems like I just wish her the best, and but like obviously this you know just a little freaky looking.
Honestly.